tonight in this, which will be just the second meeting ever between members of the 900-win club when Nebraska takes on Ohio State. Whoa, what a scene here. How much fun is this?
Outstanding, outstanding. This is impressive.
Lee Corso, Kirk Herbstreit, Desmond Howard here. Huskers have shown great improvement,
yes,
and certainly they don't have to worry about getting support.
Oh, no, they have a lot of support. Even though they only won 4 games a year ago, they were expected to compete for the Big Ten West. And their quarterback, Adrian Martinez, he was put on the Heisman watch list for 2019. If he's going to be a Heisman contender, it starts tonight against the Buckeyes.
Yeah, Scott Frost was a quarterback here. He won a national championship here.
Yeah.
When they hired him, he envisioned this.
Of course.
This is the scene that he wanted. Game day coming here, this crowd, and an opportunity to play a team like Ohio State on a big stage to kind of gauge where they are as he continues to build this. It's not a matter if he's going to do this. It's a matter of when Nebraska gets back.
This is a big game for Nebraska. If they beat Ohio State, it would be the highest-ranked team they've beaten the Big Red in 18 years.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Wow.
Go Big Red. Go Big Red.
I see you're getting with them already. You know what we haven't had? We haven't had a lot of upsets. Top 5 teams haven't lost. Only 2 top 10 teams have lost. One of those was Notre Dame. They're still in the top 10 as we start to say.
And I think Notre Dame gained a lot of respect, at least in my opinion, last week, and the way they played in Athens. They better be careful because there was so much hype, so much anticipation of that build-up. The laser show, the hype. Notre Dame held their own into that, came down to the final few moments of that game. Now they get a chance to take on Virginia. And it doesn't sound great, but Virginia is a great team. Bronco Mendenhall has a defense that will put pressure on Ian Book, and it's going to test Notre Dame's leadership and maturity, how they show up today.
Southern Cal and Washington. Washington has led the Pac-12 in scoring defense in each of the last 4 years. This year, the defense is young, but they're playing very well, especially not giving up big plays. SC will test them today, no question.
Let's go Washington State and Utah. You know, this is a football team. Both these teams are disgruntled, frustrated with how last week went. Lost close game, could have won. Now you got to bounce back. You know, think about Utah on Friday night. They're playing against a third-string quarterback in Matt Fink.
Exactly.
And now they get a chance to get back home. Zach Moss looks like he's not going, so they're going to have to show some depth in that backfield. Washington State obviously going to have to throw the ball.
How about Auburn and Mississippi State? The Bulldogs want to come in running behind Kylan Hill and their quarterback, Garrett Schrader. But Auburn's defense is like no can do, sir. They have the second best defense in the conference against the run. They're very athletic, and their linebackers love to blitz.
Ohio State and Nebraska. Adrian Martinez going to have to use those feet tonight, get chunk plays from guys like J.D. Spielman. And how about this freshman, Wan'Dale Robinson, who said last week, "Get me the ball. I got you," he said to Frost. "I got you" is what Chase Young says to just about every quarterback in his path. He leads the nation in sacks with 7. The Buckeye defense has been excellent. And I tell you what, Ohio State has caused some fumbles. Fumbles have been a problem for the Cornhuskers. Have to take care of the ball. Notre Dame and Oklahoma can join that 900-win club that Ohio State and Nebraska are already in. SC trying to win as an underdog again. And how about Sonny Dykes and the Mustangs trying to go 5-0 for the first time since before the death penalty for SMU. You know, I mentioned not many upsets, but familiarity breeds contempt. And sometimes that familiarity will lead you to some upsets, LC.
Yeah, Nebraska is a big underdog, but they have a shot at Ohio State. Why? Because their offense was scoring long plays, and the defense harasses their quarterback and makes tackles for loss. Go Big Red. They can do it. They can do it.
Win him down. Just win it down. Go Big Red.
Go Big Red.
Well, you're right. The quarterback, I think, Adrian Martinez is the key because of the ability to run and throw. But I think what Reese just said is very important to remember as you're watching games today. When conference teams get together, we start to see conference play. Because they have a book. They go into your closet, you pull out whatever team you're playing. You've got the last 8 years, what you did, what worked, what didn't work. And that's where you all of a sudden see some upsets. You're thinking, how did this happen? It doesn't make sense on paper. But teams have books on teams, and that's where these conference games start to be really upsets.
That's a good point. Even though you have books on teams, how about a team like LSU and the SEC? You're looking at Alabama. There's no book on that now.
Not right now.
They've tweaked their system.
Yeah.
You got this quarterback playing at a high level. So even though you have familiarity in the conference, when you have different tweaks like LSU has, I think it brings intrigue to the conference.
So you're saying no upsets today then?
I don't think so. Not yet. No, not yet.
I will say this, it's early in the year, you're starting to get a lot of this.
Yeah.
Right? I want to see how some of these teams handle some of those pats on the back, like
true.
Auburn. Playing at Mississippi State. A little
Yeah.
bit of a dangerous game. They're hearing about how great they are in that defense. Notre Dame, they lost, but I think they gained a lot of respect. Now they've got Virginia, mentioned them in the slate, and USC. USC, all they hear about is how bad they are. They keep winning. Now all of a sudden they're starting to get complimented. They go to Seattle. So how these teams handle success.
There's a lot of football to be played.
Yes, there is.
A lot of football to be played.
Hey, you know what? Ohio State's been on the road.
Yep.
Haven't been here.
No.
It's going to be a different environment. No disrespect to our friends in Indiana. This will be a different deal tonight.
Half that stadium would start like
Man, we've got so much ahead on this last Saturday in September for college football. 24-17. They said they were going to bounce back from that loss to Colorado. They did on the road in emphatic fashion, but the Penn State thing was probably the most impressive.
James Franklin has a football team playing great defense, 4 games, 7 points a game, and he found a quarterback. You know, we wondered what would happen when Tommy Stevens left and Sean Clifford has kind of come up. He needed a game like that. He led him in rushing, threw the ball well. But this is a I think you could say Maryland's not a great team. I don't care. On the road on a Friday night, Penn State, team to remember in the Big Ten East.
Their defensive front seven is by far the fastest I've seen it in the James Franklin era.
Yeah.
I mean, they can get after. They can play with anybody in the country. It's going to be interesting to watch their offense continue. Clifford looked really good last night. Pitt game, not so much.
Right.
So the inconsistencies of protecting him, but that defense is
They seem to be
legit
a team
speed.
that's flying under the radar right now. But offensively, defensively, and special teams, they're hitting on all cylinders right now going to conference play. Great win for James Franklin.
You know, there's some other teams flying under the radar in the Big 12, and a slate of games that might have gone a little bit unnoticed, including one at Baylor. You know, they haven't trailed for a single second all season. They have played the easiest schedule of all the Power 5 schools, but it gets tougher against Iowa State coming up today in Waco.
And it's going to be an awesome matchup. I'll tell you what, when you look at Matt Rule, a lot of excitement a couple years ago. They're 3-0. Nobody's really talking about them yet. The Bears, first challenge of the season. Can they continue to make plays at the quarterback spot? Can the offense match Brock Purdy? Brock Purdy a week ago was on fire. You've seen him spreading the ball around. You've seen his ability to throw and run. Baylor's biggest test of the season.
Bears been waiting on that game for 3 months. I'm excited for him.
The Kansas and TCU. How about Kansas? The backfield they got with Puka Williams, very fast, dynamic. And then this young man, Khalil Herbert, he gets the tough yards, averaging 9 yards per carry. But
That's
TCU, they're going to bring in a salty defense, #1 in the conference against the run. This will be a pretty good game, guys.
Here's a great game off the radar. Kansas State and Oklahoma State. How about Chris Klein? Comes in from Fargo in North Dakota State, and he looks like he's imitating Bill Snyder. Doing the little things right, running the football, playing smart with the quarterback. They better be ready to score because Spencer Sanders has weapons with Wallace on the outside. He can create with his feet. They can run the football with Hubbard. This is going to be really an interesting game and a chance for a lot of points.
Did you say score? When Texas Tech and Oklahoma played, you
Pack a
think
sandwich.
Baker Mayfield, you think of Patrick Mahomes in that 66-59 game, and it appears only one side has that type of offense. Oklahoma with Jalen Hurts, nation's leader in QBR, one more touchdown than incompletion. Now, Texas Tech, defense has improved, but they gave up big plays against that man, Khalil Tate. One would expect that Jalen Hurts would have the same opportunity, though Tech's defense is much better. Oklahoma's defense has shown a little bit of improvement, too, to at least get to average, which helps, right?
I think the way we measure your defense is always very different. You just said to get to average. Oklahoma's offense is always so good. That's all they have to be. And here's the thing they're doing better than a year ago. They're taking the football away. Last year they had 11 takeaways all season. If you could take the football away at just a little rate with that offense and get it back to them again, they can be great. They're untested. I don't know what they are yet,
the key.
But they're taking the football away. That's a good sign.
That's the key when I look at their schedule. The teams they played thus far, that they're untested. Houston, South Dakota, UCLA. I have to see them in conference play, especially going up against Texas, who are a team that we know can score a lot of points. Then I'll be able to better assess how good their defense is compared to last year.
I think Alex Grinch, the thing he has brought in is he's instilled a different different attitude. They needed to start from basically ground zero and work their way back up. Worst in the country last year in pass defense. Think about that, Oklahoma. So I know they haven't played anybody yet. You're right, we're going to find out down the road. They're not giving up explosive. They're creating turnovers, and they look like the way they're supposed to look so far. But much bigger test starting today against Tech.
Yeah, Texas Tech, though, is going to be without Alan Bowman. The Sooners have scored 38 or more 9 straight times against Texas Tech. Can you tell me the only team for $100 against whom?
You just have those falling on your pockets.
Because you took it last week. There's only one team against whom Oklahoma has the longer streak of scoring 38 or more. Does anybody know who it is?
I'm going to go
Kansas.
old school Iowa State.
Old school is right, but the answer is Kingfisher College.
Oh, you knew you were safe on that one.
Yeah, safe on that one right there.
Never even heard of it.
Bear, did you know that one?
I did not. I wouldn't have gotten in your pocket on that one.
Bear didn't know.
You love these surprise teams unbeaten in the Big 12. You really like both of them. You particularly like the Baylor Iowa State game.
I love that game because I think people need to understand like the potential Big 12 title game ramifications that it has. Baylor has Oklahoma at home, Texas at home, Iowa State at home today. Cyclones host Texas. Like the winner of this game today could potentially have a tiebreak advantage for maybe that second spot in the Big 12 title. Thought about putting Baylor on the board today. I love both of these coaches. So I feel bad going to. I think Baylor will win. Came close to putting that one on the board.
You came up almost with Baylor, but instead we have Dragons, Pirates, and a blue and a
Sounds like Game of Thrones up here with Dragons and Pirates.
Give us something on the Game of Thrones board there.
All these games, you don't need to play the biggest games of the day to find an advantage if you think you've got one. I mean, look to the group of 5. Like Western Kentucky lost their starting quarterback, Stephen Duncan, last game against Louisville, but the kid coming in for him is Ty Story, who is a grad transfer for Arkansas. He's played UAB past that first road test at Akron, but I think the Hilltoppers and Tyson Elton have to get home today as a home dog. Our football power index numbers actually have Western Kentucky as a small favorite in the game, so we'll see what happens. I'll take a shot with the small home dog and see if the Toppers can get that win.
Never go wrong with a home dog on a Saturday. Take that all day.
Or a road dog at Lane Stadium.
Do we agree?
Shots fired.
Let's see if they're above. Hey, do we agree it's OU in Texas? Bear seems to think Iowa State, Baylor sneaking up there with Texas. I still feel it's OU, Texas. Right. We're seeing improvement from Iowa State and Baylor. I think Kansas State with Chris Klein, Oklahoma State, I think they're scoring. I don't know. Is it still OU, Texas?
I think so. I think it's Oklahoma and Texas in the Big 12. But there are a lot of teams in the state of Texas who've gotten off to really good starts this year, not just in the Big 12. But you see how SMU is undefeated. We've mentioned the first time that's happened since pre-death penalty era back in the early 80s. And then you have North Texas at 2-2. North Texas and Houston tonight was supposed to be Mason Fine against De'Aaron King, but De'Aaron King, after a 1-3 start, the dynamic senior quarterback, is going to sit the rest of the season and redshirt and take a do-over for his senior year. Now, you got to understand just how unusual this is. De'Aaron King just ran and threw for a touchdown in his 15th consecutive game to break a record held by Tim Tebow. He accounted for 50 touchdowns last year. This is not a Kelly Bryant or a Jalen Hurts situation. Houston's going to get a big influx of transfers eligible next year, and Dana Holgerson told me this week this wasn't a plan he concocted for a wait-till-next-year scheme. It came as a result of his concern over King. I talked to some close to King. They say he was initially taken aback by the idea of shutting it down for a whole season. But everybody's singing from the same hymnal, at least for now.
Derek was pretty upset after the game, so I brought him in first thing on Friday morning, and we talked, and I presented every option that was available.
I didn't think about redshirt. I didn't think about doing any of this until everything was on the table. Until we had the open conversation with me, Coach Hogerson, my family, and the coaching staff.
I want him to be successful. I want him to have every opportunity to be able to do what he wants to do. It's his life. It's his college career.
I'm staying here. I'm here. If I wanted to leave Houston, go somewhere else, I could have.
Now, look, it's not just Derek. Several other guys were offered the opportunity. Some took it, some didn't. You have the right to do things. I don't know that always makes it the right decision, either for the coach or the player. What's your reaction to all of that?
When I first heard the news, I just assumed, he's going to sit out 4 games he played, and he's going to sit out and transfer to be the next Oklahoma quarterback or wherever it might be. I talked to him last night. I wanted to kind of hear from him what was on his mind and how this whole thing played out, because it just sounded so strange. I just want to say, after talking to him, one thing is incredibly clear. He is a Houston Cougar. He wants to be a Houston Cougar. He's committed to his teammates in that program for now. And this was not a disgruntled player that decided he was going to leave. He was approached and asked if this might be something that would make some sense. Put him in a very awkward position when you're a captain, a senior, and you've been a great player your whole career, and an unselfish player. Moved to receiver as a freshman. This guy's done everything that's been asked of him, and then he gets approached. I've never heard of that. I've never heard a coach say, hey, man, we're going to just kind of wave the white flag the rest of this year and see what we can do next year. You in?
Yeah.
I mean, how would you handle that?
Well, I tell you what, I first heard about it on College Football Live, and I thought this was pretty odd.
Yeah.
Like, I'm starting to listen to the facts, and it seems like an egregious manipulation of the rules. And it seems like a betrayal of the team. Because now you have a whole bunch of other guys who he's practicing. He's doing everything except playing. And the receiver is too, and then a couple other guys. They're practicing, but they're not going to play on Saturdays. They're 1-3. If they're 4-0, did they make this decision?
Oh, no.
Absolutely.
No,
Exactly.
no.
So that's, to me, that's how you're manipulating the rule. To me, it just smells like a skunk, and then you're betraying the rest of your team.
But what's the difference then in holding out a younger player who could contribute to the team?
No. It's a big difference. It's a big difference if you're talking about a guy who scored 50 touchdowns a year ago.
I understand that.
Okay,
I'm talking about. I'm just saying. I'm not. I understand that he is a difference in terms of manipulating the rule.
Right.
That's not new.
I never said
I've always done that.
Did I say it was new?
No.
I just said it's an egregious manipulation of the rule.
First time we've ever seen this, ever.
Welcome to tanking in college football now. Like, you've seen it with the 76ers. You've seen it with the Dolphins currently in the NFL.
Yeah.
Now you have tanking in college football. And here's the thing.
As Dolphins, we take, we take offense to that comment.
It's true. It ain't the Dolphins players' fault. But here's the thing.
He's rebuilding.
And here's what I think. Here's where I think Dana might get himself in trouble. Yes, you're tanking on the right now and playing for the future. You might lose a lot of your team in the future because you're telling the right guard now, by the way, you didn't get picked to tank and be a part of the team next year. You got to go out there and just fight for.
I don't know how he stands up in front of his team today.
And tell me to fight. You got to fight for everybody.
I asked him that when I talked to Dana, and he said, look, they've responded well to it. He said, gave him the choice. Guys are still working hard, and they came out with an energy. One of the things he said is that sometimes a 1-3 team can use a crisis and play a little better. So. Okay. Obviously, as a coach, he's going to take exception to the idea that they're giving up on the season.
Of course.
But I think I agree with you guys, and I think there's a risk there, and he's smart enough to know it. He knows there's a risk there.
The thing with King is I think he wants to be at Houston, but what happens from this day moving forward internally as he's working with the scout team, with his boys in the locker room. Be interesting. I think he wants to stay at Houston. Where does he end up in 2020? It's going to be an interesting story.
That's a good question because you said you spoke to him, but then I read quotes from his dad, too. I'm a dad, you're a dad, you're a dad. He didn't seem so sure that things are going to go as they're on course right now.
The other thing that they've sold to him is that Will Grier developed while sitting out at West Virginia in this system, and typically they believe as a second year in a system for these quarterbacks, they take a big jump. We'll see. And we'll also see who else is able to manipulate the rule from time to time as it works to their benefit. Sports Center coming up tonight after your full day of college football from Los Angeles. Follows UCLA and Arizona.
It's a bad man right there.
Yes,
it's a bad man.
The baddest. 2-2.
So is he. He's a bad man.
They're going to get acquainted tonight, I've got a feeling. Herbie will be on there. Much more on that. Title fight breakdowns from the ring and the octagon. It's all after college football on ESPN and the ESPN app. Hey, we're checking out Section 0. Do I see my good friend Fred Hoiberg in there someplace? And basketball?
There he is. All right.
Hey, can he he was the mayor in Ames. Can he be like associate mayor here?
Oh,
with Scott Frost?
Yeah, absolutely.
To ask Frost.
That's in Section 0, sharing a coat with Fred Hoiberg and Nebraska basketball as we say good morning to Maria Taylor.
Good morning, Reese. I love that Fred Hoiberg is wearing the gold chain because he was hanging out with Rick Ross last night at opening night for both men's and women's basketball. It's been all fun here in Lincoln, Nebraska.